Welcome to Columbus Realtors MLS video training. In this section, we're going to talk about copying saved search data from the Tempo system and the Fusion system so you can copy it over to the new Flex MLS system. Specifically for conversion, you're going to need to do this. You're going to need to take the criteria from your saved searches as they exist right now in the current MLS system, Tempo or Fusion, and then go and recreate that same search in the Flex MLS system, and that's what we're going to talk about. First thing I'm going to do is go into here in Tempo and look at the contact list. Well, your searches are going to need to be transferred. For that said, there's another video on how to back up your contacts. You don't really need to transfer them over. They should transfer automatically. That's the contacts, the names, addresses, telephone numbers that you're looking at here on the screen. What we're talking about are the searches, and so I'm going to go to the search menu and go to Search Manager here in Tempo. Again, contacts and searches are two different things. The contacts should transfer, but watch the video on backing up your contacts. It's always a good idea to have a backup of your contacts. That said, this video is about saved searches. Now, as you go through and look at your searches here, you have a lot of searches. In my search list, I've got 117 searches saved here. Now, as I scroll up and down, I have to go through a process here. A three-tiered approach is what I recommend. Look for the three different types of searches, meaning how important are they to you. If you need every one of these searches, then you're going to have to copy the criteria for each one of these searches over to Flex. But if you go through and you triage a little bit and say, well, there are ones I absolutely need, they're connected to prospects, and I need to have these, then you do those searches first. The second tier would be I use them often, maybe even daily or at least weekly, or often enough that I need that search and I don't want to recreate it. That would be your second tier. And then the third tier would be everything else. So you got the absolutely need, use every day, connected to prospects. You have the use pretty often, and I definitely want to have those. I don't want to recreate them. And third, the ones I don't know if it's worth spending the time to create those searches in the new system. So kind of get that laid out. You might want to go through your list here and figure out what that is from the list you're looking at. Now that said, I'm going to go back up here to the search menu, and instead of going to Search Manager, I'm going to go to Prospect Manager in Tempo. I hover over Prospects, I go to Prospect Manager. And on Prospect Manager, there are the active searches. Now those are the ones we just talked about. They are connected to a prospect. So I'm going to show you very quickly how to get a couple of these in Tempo. I'll tell you right now, Tempo is more difficult than doing it in Fusion. Fusion has a couple of shortcuts that are going to make it a little easier. So you're going to have to write these down manually here in Tempo. If you do it in Fusion, like I said, it's going to be easier, but I'm going to show you how to do it in Tempo first. So I click on the search name right up here where it says Upper Arlington for Boyd. I click on that. And on the search screen, notice you've got your current criteria over here, which is very useful. Notice it shows the statuses, it shows the property types, it shows the school district, the price, the township. And here's the problem though. If you look at style, it says style 10102. That's a code. Now over here on the screen, if I scroll down, here are all those codes, and if I click on this little icon right here that says description, this little link where I'm hovering my mouse in the middle of the screen, notice it shows you the actual selections in that list. The other thing you can do is just click on the down arrow right here, and you can see those descriptions, and you can write them down, and you can select all of the items in that list that are selected for this search. So you can go through longhand and just write them down. Make sure you write down the name of the search. Right up here it is, Upper Arlington for Boyd, attached to, and the client's name, Boyd McNamara. Okay, so you can go here and you can click on each one of these and jump to that section. Notice if you click on the left-hand side over here under Current Criteria, it highlights the section, and then you can go through and write it down. Or if you want to do the description link right here, then it will show you that description in that box, but you still have to scroll to it, so it's probably best just to click the down arrow and read the descriptions from that list. Now, once you write all those down, you have that search criteria, but remember that's only for your prospects under Prospect Manager. If instead of just doing your active prospects, you wanted to go through and get all of your searches, you could go to Search Manager as well, but I'm going to go back to Prospect Manager. Hover over Prospects at the top, click on Prospect Manager here in Tempo, click on the list, and notice you can go to All Searches here on Prospect Manager. When you go to Prospect Manager, All Searches, then you'll see all of the searches on the entire list. You can click prospect name and see the ones that were attached to a prospect. And then again, triage. Absolutely need, they're connected to prospects. Well, you can tell the ones that are currently active prospects by going to active searches up here at the top in the display box. But if you want to see all of them, you go back to all searches, and you can sort by prospect name by clicking on prospect name. See that little arrow right there? And then you can see the ones that were at some point connected to a prospect. Not all of these are your active prospects. Those are all of the ones that are still connected, and you can change that right there. Okay? So now you pick your search, and same story we talked about earlier. If you go and you click on the search name right here, the search name, not the client name, the contact name. I click on the search name. That takes me to the search. There's my criteria. Again, we've got numbers and style and parking. But if you don't use the style or parking field for that client, you can just write down this information right here. The other thing you can do is when you've got this here, you can print screen. The problem is those codes. Those codes aren't going to tell you what those are. You're going to have to go over here to the style fields and click the down arrow and write them down. Okay, so that's Tempo. Let me jump over to Fusion, which is going to be quite a bit easier. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go up to Search in Fusion. Now this is in Fusion. Go to Search Manager in Fusion. And on the Search Manager screen, you're going to see the same thing. It's going to show all of your prospect searches right up here at the top. That's a little different than in Tempo, but right there they are, the active ones. And again, I'm going to click on the search name right here. When I click on that search name, it takes me back to the search screen. Now, if it's got a polygon like this one does, you'll probably want to go over to the print screen button right over here at the right-hand side and print that polygon, and then later you can recreate it over in Flex. So that way you can get a printout of the polygon location, and you'll just have to recreate it as best you can on the other side. Now, the other thing though is all of the criteria, and you can see that while that's trying to print that polygon. Over here on the left-hand side, you've got all that criteria. Well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to criteria summary down here at the bottom, which is very similar to what we were just looking at in Tempo. It shows you all the criteria. Now notice, in this one we've still got style is 10, 102, 10105, 10104. I don't know what those are. Those don't make any sense to me. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to click on the field just like I did in Tempo, and notice it shows that code. Now I'm going to expand this a little bigger so I can see that code. Now see all those codes right down here. I click on them, parking, and it highlights parking. I click on style and it highlights style. All right, here's what I'm going to do. In Fusion, I click on options, and it has that same option for code or description. When I click on description, now it shows the code. Now notice here in Fusion though, not only did it change it in the field, but down here on your criteria summary, it also shows two-story Cape Cod bi-level. Watch this for parking. Parking says 10202, where I'm moving my mouse down here at the bottom left-hand corner, and 10203. If I go up to that field parking and I click options and I click description, now it's showing those long codes or long descriptions there as well. So in Fusion it's a little nicer because it's going to show you down here in the criteria summary, and you have lots of options. One thing you can do is simply print this page like I said. So if I go up to File, Print right now, what it's going to do is print what's on the screen. Now if you have a PDF printer installed like I do right here, it's called Cute PDF. It's just a free PDF printer. You can also just send it to your printer and make a printed copy of this. It's important that when you print, or if you create a PDF of it, that you name it in such a way that you know this was attached to this contact, repetitive test, and what search it is. Now I accidentally clicked off of there. I can easily go back to Search and Search Manager and go right back where I was. Once I click on the search name right here, now it brings that search back up, and notice the codes are back. So I need to change those codes again. Click on the code, or on the field style that has the codes, and you go to Options, Description. Next field, Parking, Options, Description. And again, your whole point here is that you want to see these and save them so that you can recreate them over in the new system Flex. So again, I go to File and I go to Print right here. And when I click on Print, I can either print it to my printer, or I'm going to print it so you can see it to a PDF. So I click Print, to a PDF printer if you have one. PDF 995 is another one, Cute PDF. There are several free PDF printers that you can install. If you don't have one, don't worry, you can always just write it down longhand, because down here at the bottom you just write down all of the criteria. And that's an important thing to remember, is that notice in this criteria it scrolls and you can see most of it. But some of them, if you got a lot of criteria in there, you're not going to be able to see all of the fields, so you'll have to either print the screen twice or you're going to have to just write it down longhand. Either way, it's up to you. I'm going to do this though. I'm going to go to another search. Now I'm going to go up here to residential. Remember that in this drop down here, you're not going to get your prospect searches. If you want all your prospect searches, you need to hover over search and go to search manager. On the search manager screen, there are your prospects. Well, here are the other searches that I have to decide, that triage, that 3-tier approach. Absolutely need, use often, and everything else that if I get to it, I get to it. If not, it just won't transfer. Okay, so I'm going to click on another search here. That's going to take me to the Save Search screen, another polygon. And notice it's going to say map shape right down here. Now, you're going to have to zoom out and you're going to have to recreate that polygon, so you'll want to go over to the print button on the right hand side to print that polygon if you need it for this client and this search name, additional subdivisions right here. Alright, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go through and look and say square foot's okay. Well, look at this one. It doesn't have anything other than the polygon. It doesn't have any fields that need the code changed, so I can either write this down or I can go to File and I can go to Print and I can print this by clicking the printer I want to send it to right there, or I can create a PDF of it right there. And if I create a PDF of it, again, I'm going to want to name this so I know which contact it was attached to. Now it's going to create the PDF right now. And I'm going to call this, look at that name, I need to give it a name. We're going to call this Repetitive Test. That's the name of my client right up here at the left-hand corner, and there's the name of the search right there, additional subdivisions. Additional subdivisions search. Okay, now I'm going to save it to my desktop or any other folder on my hard drive. I can go into maybe my main folder, into my documents. I'm just going to save it to my desktop. Maybe I want to create a new folder, so I click on the new folder icon and saved search criteria, if that's what you want to put it in as far as the folder to put it in. I'm going to open that and I'm going to click save. And now I have a PDF of this criteria. Let me show you what that looks like. I'm going to go to my saved search criteria real quick, and here's the PDF I just created showing you the criteria. Now you'll be able to use that criteria later to recreate the search. Now it pushed it to a vertical page, so the polygon, you'll want to print the polygon directly from the polygon print view. So let me do that right now. If I go back into that, I can go right over here and click the print button, and when I print the polygon from that screen, it will print it exactly as you see it on your screen right now. So you'll be able to recreate it a little better. So if you have a polygon, I would print a separate PDF or just print it to your printer of the polygon so that you can recreate that in Flex. But that's how you're going to go and get the criteria, either by longhand or by printing the screen like we just did, or printing it to a PDF. Just remember, if you do have a lot of criteria, or if you have a small screen, look what happens when I reduce the size of the screen here. I'm going to have to scroll down to see all of this criteria. And if that's the case, you may have to print it twice and then scroll it down, or print it once and then scroll it down and then print it again. Or in that case, if you have that small screen, it might just be easier just to write the criteria down, write down the name of the search it was attached to and the client it was attached to. And then you have all that information so you can recreate it. Now, you're going to have to do this between now and January the 13th, because that's when the system goes live. And what I'm going to show you next is actually going into Flex and putting it on Flex. You will not have access to Flex until January 13th, but it's still a good idea to get a backup of all your searches now so that you don't have to go through and do 150 or 200 searches on January 12th. Now you'll be able to have access to this all the way through January 30th. But don't wait until the end, because if you have a lot of searches, they're going to get backed up and you're not going to get all that criteria transferred. So you'll want to get started on this, and that way if you have the printouts or if you have the PDFs in one folder, you can check and make sure that all the important searches, the criteria is already ready to go. So January 13th you can start entering your new searches. And here's how you're going to do that. I'm going to go into the new system, Flex, right now. And I'm going to go to search right up here. And I'm going to click on quick search. And this is assuming it's a residential search, so I'm going to go to residential right here. Land, farm, and multifamily all work exactly the same as they do in the MLS currently, so you'll just go to the appropriate search to recreate this. And now you're going to have to recreate that search over here in the new system. And I'm going to show you how to do that right now. I'm just going to move this up a little bit. The easiest way will be to have that PDF or that printout right there ready to go. And then you simply go over here to Flex. And I'm going to pull up that PDF that we just looked at. Okay, now you may have a PDF or you may have a printout in your hand, but I'm just going to pull this up. I'm going to put the PDF over here to the side so I can see it a little better. And then I'm going to go into my criteria. Well, you notice over here on the right-hand side, this search is list price between $50,000 and $75,000. So I go to list price field. I put in $50,000 to $75,000. Okay, and then I go to the next criteria. Bedrooms is more than 3. So I go to bedrooms, 3, and leave the max blank. And I go to full baths, the total is more than 1. So I go to full baths on the left-hand side, 1. And I'm just looking at my criteria over here on the right-hand side of the screen, and then putting it in on the left-hand side here in the Flex system. So square foot ATFLS is more than 144. Okay, so I do 144. And so you just transfer all the criteria into the search and then save the search. So now I've got my criteria in here. If I have a polygon, I can add that by going right over here to map search, and that map search button, not the map tab up here, the map search button right here. If I want to jump back to my quick search results, I just click quick search. I click on map search up here at the top right hand corner, and now I can go and recreate that. Now that doesn't look real good. It'd be better if I printed it off using that print button, but I can see where the basic boundaries are. And again, I'm going to go back to this screen and zoom in. And I'm just going to do an example here. I'm going to zoom in on an intersection. And then you would recreate. Now this is not the same intersection. I just want to recreate this for you so you see how it works. I click on the polygon tools down here. This click and release for a polygon, and you drag it. So there's the polygon. Or you can do the radius as needed, or the multifacet polygon right down here at the bottom, and you're always click and release. Click, click, click and release, click and release, click and release, click and release. So you can go through and recreate your polygons. Double click to finish it. If you need to get rid of them, you can simply click on the polygon, click on edit, and click remove. So I click on this one, click on edit, and click remove. But let's say I have to edit this one. Well, I can click on this polygon, click on edit, and click edit shape. If I need to move it around a little bit, I just grab that little circle in the middle to move the polygon. If I need to make it bigger, I can grab a corner and just make the polygon rectangle bigger. So then I can just match it up with what I have on my map over here. And when I'm done, I click leave edit shape mode. And now we have the polygon. But I haven't saved it. And this is the important part. Now that you've done all this work, don't forget to save your search. And you go up to the top. Now, everything I'm doing here cannot be done prior to the 13th of January. Okay, so 13th of January, you'll have access to Flex. Prior to that, you won't. I'm going to click Save up here at the top of the screen, and I'm going to click Save Search. Now, we're going to need to give it a name. The good thing is we already know what that name should be because I've got this PDF over here. And I've got Repetti. There's the client's name. Well, I need the search name first, so I'm going to go to Additional Subdivisions over here. This is the search name right there in the middle where my mouse is moving. So I'm going to name the search Additional Subdivisions. And maybe you want to say for Repetti. And then you say saved search for and the client's name. Now, if you just want to save this search, you leave it save type new. If you want to modify an existing, you can do that. Contact name right here. If you just want to save the search, you leave it as none. If you want to add it to a new contact and create that new contact right here, you can type in the display name and the email that you want to attach it to and save it, and it will create it for you right now. Or you can click existing, and if you want to attach it, maybe you've gone through and your contacts were already there and you just need to reattach it to the existing contact. You just select the contact from the list, and you can even save and add auto email and go right into prospecting from here. Now for this example, I'm just going to click None, and I'm going to click Save. With the additional subdivision for Repetti, search name, and description, it's for my client, and I'm going to save it as a saved search for later use. I click Save, and now that criteria has been transferred and saved into the Flex system. Now, again, after January 13th, you will have access to the live system. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back into Tempo, and I'm going to drag this over here to the side. And it's kind of hard to see because, you know, the Tempo screen shows all these codes, but you can put it over here, and you can do the same thing I just did. Go to Search, Quick Search. And on the live system, now this can only happen after January 13th because understand you won't have access to Flex, but this would bypass having to create those. Now I don't recommend waiting until after January 13th to start backing up your saved search criteria because then you're going to be crunched for time. You're only going to have 2 weeks, whereas right now if you start, you've got a month. So this would happen live. Now I'm going to do this in Fusion though, and I'm going to take that Fusion search. I'm going to go up to my search manager in Fusion, and I'm going to click on that subdivision, or excuse me, this North Central Ohio search right here. And I'm going to move this over to the side. And remember, those codes are all there. Style is, well, I click on the code, I go up to Options, I change it to Description, I go to the next field, I go to Options, I change it to Description. That way I can see the actual description of those. Move it over to the side. Now again, after January 13th, you can do this. Prior, I highly recommend you go and make backups of your search criteria prior to that. But if you're doing this after January 13th, and if you only have 10 or 15 searches, then go ahead and start on January 13th and do it. Otherwise, if you've got a bunch, you need to start doing the print or longhand writing down the criteria as soon as possible. Now, after January 13th, here we go. In Flex, I go to Search, I go to Quick Search. I've got my criteria over here on the right-hand side in Fusion. So I go to Residential, and I click Use. And now I go to the criteria over here on the left-hand side, and I go to Status is Active and Contingent. Okay, let's go to Status. I want Active, and I want Contingent, and I want, okay, now notice Canceled. That's the new name for Withdrawn. That's something you'll learn in the classes. But you can go through and transfer all of this criteria right here to Status. Then you go to the next one. And let's say you go to price range 180, go to price range minimum 180,000 and 190,000 maximum. Again, just transferring the data from the right hand side over here where you see it. Full baths is more than 1, so full baths minimum 1. And square foot ATFLS, so I scroll down here to square foot to ATFLS and I type in that number and I go to style. Cape Cod, 2-story. Okay, here we go. So I go to Style, click on it, and I'm going to click on 2-story, and I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to control click on Cape Cod. And what else I got? Bi-level. So I control click on Bi-level. So you select the 3 entries there. Now, you can go to parking and finish this out. Parking, and we've got 2-car garage and 3-car garage. So 3-car and 2-car. All right. Now, as I've got these selected, remember, I've still got that polygon. Okay, so I'm going to move that over so I can see it a little better. I'm going to go back to my search. Remember, Map Search is right up here to add that polygon. Now, I need to zoom in on this section of Columbus, so I'm going to make the maps look as similar as possible. So I move that down. And to recreate that polygon, I simply go down to the little circle down here at the bottom. And I start out here somewhere, click and release, drag outwards until it looks about right. And there it is. I click again. So click and release, drag outwards, click and release again. If you need to edit it or move it, you click on Edit. You click on Edit Shape right here and move it and resize it as necessary. When you're done, you click Leave Edit Shape Mode, and then you go to Save. Don't forget to click Save up here at the top. You go to Save Search. Now again, you got your search name. Again, after the 13th, you'll be able to do this live, but I don't recommend waiting if you have a lot of searches. Now here we go. There's the search name over there in Fusion and the client's name. So I'm going to call this North Cent Ohio 180 to 190 for Repetti. And I go for client Repetti. All right, again, if you want to save it to a new contact, or if you've already got your contacts in there, they transferred over, you looked at them, you didn't have any problems with them, you pick the contact you want to attach it to, and you can save and add auto email, or you can just save it for later use by clicking None and click Save with the search name as you created it. You click Save, and that's it. You're done. You've transferred all of the criteria over to Flex from Tempo or Fusion using either the print method or the handwritten method or the live method after January 13th. Hope this helps. See you next time on MLS Video Training at the Columbus Realtors.